Just letting you know that this is my spoiler review right after watching the episode. To watch my full, uncut, and unfiltered reaction, join my Ashamoji TV Club and get exclusive access. The link is in the description box below. Now, here's my afterthoughts of this episode of Supernatural. My oh my! There's a lot going on in this episode. So much. It's definitely going to take another rewatch at some point to really understand what they were trying to tell in terms of story beats with each character. But I trust that the feedback I'll get will probably be enough for me not to necessarily need to rewatch the whole episode. So I'm just going to touch on some stuff, okay? The main things that really were brought to my attention as a viewer here. So let me start with the scene that I've picked, and then I'm going to move on to talking about Kevin and his mom and the interesting stuff that I think I've interpreted there. Alright, so the scene that I've picked was at the end, when those angels showed up at the cemetery to tell Castiel that they're ready to follow him as a leader. And I am crossing my fingers. I really am, as a viewer, that the writers are going to bring back the glory a little bit to Castiel as a character, because when I think back on how he was introduced in season 1, episode 1, no, season 4, excuse me, not season 1, season 4, episode 1, right? One of the most epic episodes for a lot of SPN fans, apparently. I think back at that Castiel, and I think, and based on the feedback I've received about his journey, and what I've interpreted so far with him falling from grace, so to speak, and then learning to somewhat be attuned with his own humanity, it's a bit yo-yo for me. And I'll touch on that in just a second. But with that scene, it's very clear that this season is all about restoring balance. So far, that's what I'm interpreting, right? Heaven is closed, and there are consequences to that puts everything in chaos, not just for angels, but for the dead, as was very clearly stated and shown in this episode, although I should have really paid attention to what that really meant beforehand based on feedback I've received. But when it comes to that scene, I'm hoping now the writers are going to have Castiel take a more leadership role with the support he now has and build this army this new way, because they have him telling Rebecca, he appreciated and respected the fact she tried to find a new way to coexist and be angels without being douchebags, and so this is his chance with the support to create this new way. And I had touched on this before. I had mentioned something what I'm going to say right now before, but I'm just going to elaborate. That scene as well, where he's seeing the technology that they're using to find Metatron, that is another, I hope, clue that there is going to be this mix with technology and man's affairs on Earth that can mix in with the supernatural. So I'm hoping that Castiel is going to go back to that establishment that Bartholomew has set up, use those resources with the support of these angels to involve himself with the human world and their technology to chase down Metatron, and perhaps also maybe use those resources to partner with the Winchesters and their resource at the bunker to solve cases and to, there's so much narrative that can come from that I think is possible ahead. I think, right? So that's why I picked that scene, because of the possibilities of what it means towards the end of the season, where I'm going to just put it out there as my guess that Castiel will be the key with the angel tablet that he has an affinity with to restore balance to heaven, to the world, to everything. And then a whole new story will unfold from there in season 10 with whatever they end up doing. Alright, a few more minutes to kind of express some of my thoughts here. Now, when it comes to Kevin Tran, I'm very relieved at their attempt to tie up that as a loose end. It's not fully tied, right? Because I could see now they're going to likely have an episode where hopefully they send him off to heaven, similar to what they did with Bobby And then it'll be officially, R.I.P. for Kevin. But to have this whole thing where they finally find his mom, they find what anchored him, which makes me wonder if they're going to have an interesting story related to Kevin's father. Maybe not. I just find that interesting because I'm thinking back on that episode. I can't remember which episode it was, but it was the one where Crowley did make mention about the identity of Kevin's father not being what he thinks, something like that. And I'm just wondering if that's just another hint that Kevin's father might come into the picture, even though he's dead. Maybe, I don't know. I don't want to over speculate there. I don't know if sometimes they just put in lines that they don't have any intentions to follow through with, or they're just there for. I don't know. I don't know. I gotta be careful with that because it'll kind of lead me on to a rabbit hole here. Anyways, I like the tie-up. I like the tie-up with it. And although I said when Kevin had died, I was like, he'd be a vengeful spirit to come back and haunt them. I wasn't thinking at that time, I wasn't thinking, even though it was hinted to me in feedback, I wasn't thinking though it would be simply because he can't get to heaven. I really thought like just because of the way he died, he wouldn't listen to a reaper to go to heaven or to hell. I was like the concept of like the fact that he couldn't even go to heaven, although it was like, although it was very much indicated to me at that point in time, it didn't cross my mind. And sometimes, most of the times, I'm late on the very obvious facts of certain things related in the episode. So, my bad. Me culpa. Okay? There was something else. Yeah, the whole thing with Crowley, with the storage locker and that demon back and forth. I like the comic relief of it from his perspective as a minion of Crowley. I think that's kind of neat. Just to kind of give us as an idea. Well, I think that's what they were trying to attempt, to give us an idea of what the mindset is for some of these people who are trying to impress the King of Hell, not knowing really what's going on, the fact that they had Crowley captive the whole time, what consequences there were to that, or repercussions for his demons and how they view the situation. I could see how that could be annoying to some viewers, but for me, I like the comic relief of it. I thought that was cool. And the radio, using the frequency to tune in with the dead, nicely done. Especially that they've brought up angel radio as a thing, and yeah. This episode had some really good stuff going for it. It really did. And, yes. Oh my gosh, one of the most obvious things right at the end. This rift with Sam and Dean. I'm just going to repeat a little bit what I already said. I look forward to how they're going to unfold the drama of it. The drama that Kevin doesn't want them to continue on with, but we as viewers, we're addicted to. Aren't we not? Well, I am and I'm not. It all depends on how it's executed and how it's written. But it's fun. It's fun to watch in some respects. Okay, so Ashamoji. Let's get to it. Ashamoji. I think it deserves a 4. I really do. I could see where some may feel with the Kevin Tran part of things, because at this point in time, I am aware of some viewers not being on board with the Kevin Tran narrative in general. But I'm not one of those viewers. I'm fine with it. And I like what they've tried to attempt to do in this episode. And if we end up seeing him again, finally, to go back to heaven, I'm cool with that too. So, with that in mind, yeah, 4 Ashemojis I think is deserving of this episode. Let me know your thoughts, of course. So there you have it. That's my reaction to episode 14 from the 9th season of Supernatural. I look forward to reading your non-spoiler comments about this episode. Any trivia that you may know, I like that stuff. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. And if you want access to my full reaction to this episode, uncut, unfiltered, with extra stuff that you can take advantage of as a club member, details on how to join my club is in the description box below. So, I'll see you later. Bye! Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and check out my other videos.